Sir, wake up. Right now. I said right now. The voice cuts through the dimmed cabin of Sovereign Airways Flight 2247 like a blade through still water. Not loud, not panicked. Worse than both of those things. It carries the particular edge of someone who has never had their authority questioned and does not intend to start tonight. The Boeing 787 sits at Gate 14, JFK, 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in March. Outside, a steady rain turns the runway into a mirror of red and white lights blurring and shifting with every gust of wind off the harbor. The kind of rain that makes travelers grateful to be inside. The kind of night that makes sleep feel like mercy. Inside, the first-class cabin glows amber. 12 suites, each one the size of a small apartment. Each one designed to make a certain kind of passenger feel that the world has been arranged specifically for their comfort. The air smells of leather and the faint ghost of champagne poured 20 minutes ago. Soft music moves through the overhead speakers like something underwater. The whole environment has been engineered to say you are safe here. You have arrived. Rest. In Suite 1, a large black man in a charcoal gray hoodie does not move. His head tilts slightly toward the oval window. His breathing is slow, even, deep. The noise-canceling earbuds he wears have created a sealed world around him, a cocoon of silence built specifically to protect exactly this kind of exhaustion. His long legs stretch into the footwell of the suite. One arm rests on the wide leather armrest. The other lies across his lap, open-palmed the way a person's hand falls when they have truly, finally let go. He looks like a man who has not slept in 3 days, because he has not. The charcoal hoodie is old but clean. The jeans are faded at the knees. The white Air Force Ones have a small scuff on the left toe that he has meant to address for months, but has not, because the kind of schedule that produces 3 days without sleep does not leave much room for shoe maintenance. His only bag, a battered leather duffel with a broken zipper pull replaced by a safety pin, sits in the overhead compartment. Inside it, a laptop, a folder of documents, and a voice recording application running on his phone, red dot pulsing quietly. A habit he developed years ago in negotiations where documentation was the difference between winning and losing everything. He fell asleep before the safety demonstration finished. He looks like nothing. He looks like a man who wandered onto a flight he could not quite afford and found a seat too good for him and decided to sleep through any conversation about it. This is what Carolyn Vance sees. She stands at the end of the aisle with her arms just beginning to cross, her ash-blonde hair pulled back with the tightness of someone whose appearance is a form of control. Her navy uniform is pressed to a geometric perfection that has survived the entire evening without a crease. She looks at the hoodie. She looks at the jeans. She looks at the shoes. And in the space between one heartbeat and the next, she makes the decision that will end her career. She does not check the passenger manifest. She does not ask her junior colleague to verify the boarding pass. She walks straight down the aisle toward Seat 1A with the practiced authority of someone who has been right about everything for 18 years and has no reason to believe tonight will be different. She reaches the suite. She taps his shoulder. Once, then harder. His eyes open slowly, unfocused. A man being pulled from the deepest water of sleep. And in those first confused seconds, before he says a single word, before he has even fully arrived back in the world, Carolyn Vance looks at him and has already decided. What she does not know will change everything. Before we go any further into what happens next, tell me something. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city in the comments below. We have people watching from all over the world, and we love hearing from every single one of you. And if you have ever walked into a room and felt someone decide who you were before you even opened your mouth, this story is for you. This story is specifically personally for you. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Every one of those actions helps this story reach someone who needs to hear it tonight. Now, let us go back to Gate 14. Let us go back to Suite 1A, and let us meet the man that Carolyn Vance just made the biggest mistake of her 18-year career trying to remove from a seat that belongs in every possible sense of that word to him. Rewind 18 hours. London, the Dorchester Hotel. Conference Room 7, 5:31 a.m. The city outside the floor-to-ceiling windows is still dark. The Thames is invisible beneath low cloud. Somewhere below on Park Lane, a single black cab moves through rain that has been falling all night, its headlights cutting two pale lines through the wet. Inside the conference room, 9 lawyers sit around a table covered in documents. 4 investment bankers occupy the chairs nearest the door, close enough to leave quickly when this is over. Coffee cups have multiplied over the course of the night. Most of them are cold. A plate of sandwiches brought in at 2 a.m. sits mostly untouched at the far end of the table, the bread curling at the edges. Marcus Damon Webb sits at the head of the table. He is 44 years old. He is wearing the same clothes he wore on the transatlantic flight that brought him here 31 hours ago, a charcoal gray hoodie, dark jeans, white Air Force Ones. His lead counsel, a compact British woman named Patricia Hale, stopped commenting on his appearance after the second day of negotiations. Everyone else stopped earlier. When a man sits across a table from you and dismantles your counter-arguments with the quiet precision of someone who has been preparing for this specific conversation for 18 months, you stop noticing his shoes. The final signature goes down at 5:52 a.m. Sovereign Airways. All of it. Every aircraft in the fleet. Every gate lease from JFK to LAX to Heathrow. Every uniform hanging in every crew locker room in 11 cities. Every boarding gate screen. Every seat. Every overhead compartment latch. Every small bottle of sparkling water stored in every forward galley of every 787 currently grounded or in the air bearing the sovereign name. His. He does not celebrate. He closes the folder, shakes hands with Patricia and the lead banker, and says 4 words. Now let us work. Marcus Damon Webb was born in Birmingham, Alabama, second of 4 children. His mother, Gloria Webb, worked 2 jobs, hospital laundry by day school cafeteria by night. She was, and remains, the hardest working person he has ever met in a life that has introduced him to a remarkable number of hard-working people. His father left when Marcus was 11. Not with drama, not with violence. Just quietly, the way some men do when the accumulated weight of a life they did not plan for becomes more than they can carry. Marcus spent years not blaming him out loud. Internally was a different matter, and one he has mostly resolved. What stayed with him was the image of his mother at the kitchen table at midnight. Cold rice in a plastic container. Eating without complaint. Not performing endurance. Just living it the way people do when endurance is not a choice, but simply the shape of their days. He carried that image through Georgia Tech, where he studied finance on a partial academic scholarship, and covered the rest by working the overnight shift at a FedEx sorting facility 3 nights a week. He graduated with a 3.89 GPA and calluses on his hands from the conveyor belts. He wore the calluses without embarrassment. They were data. They told him something true about himself that no grade point average could confirm that he could hold 2 things at once without dropping either. He built Apex Capital Group at 31 from a single investment in a struggling regional airline. The airline tripled in value over 4 years. He sold his stake, reinvested within 6 weeks, and never looked back. Today, Apex manages $14 billion in assets across aviation logistics and infrastructure. His name is on 1 magazine cover in his career. He declined 12 others. He does not perform success. He builds it quietly in rooms where the lighting is bad, and the sandwiches go cold and the lawyers run out of arguments before he runs out of patience. The Sovereign Airways acquisition has been 18 months in the making. 18 months of due diligence periods that stretched long enough to feel geological. 18 months of negotiations that tested everyone in the room and found most of them wanting at some point. The paperwork now sitting in a secure London server with his signature at the bottom represents something larger than an acquisition. It represents an idea he has been building toward for a long time, that the institutions which shape how people move through the world should be held accountable to the people who move through them. He wants to see this airline the way its passengers see it. Not from a boardroom, not from a VIP lounge, not from the private charter that his team booked for him and that he declined without explanation. From seat 1A, unannounced in the clothes he actually wears on a Tuesday night in March. He called his assistant Tamara Hill from the Dorchester lobby at 8:47 p.m. London time. Tamara has worked with him for 7 years and has developed over that time a remarkable capacity for making things happen on very short notice without editorializing. "Book me a seat on the next commercial Sovereign flight to Chicago," he said. "First class. Full fare. My name." She booked it in 4 minutes. Seat 1A on Flight 2247 departing JFK at midnight. Gold tier status confirmation. Elite member notation. Special access flag on his profile. He landed at JFK at 10:41 p.m. Cleared customs in 11 minutes. Took a cab rather than the car service because the cab felt more honest. Arrived at Gate 14 at 11:23 p.m. and boarded with his battered leather duffel and his boarding pass printed on gold-embossed cardstock and his voice recording application already running red dot pulsing in the corner of his phone screen, because some habits exist for reasons that have never fully gone away. He was asleep before the safety demonstration finished. He looks like a man who wandered onto a flight above his station. He is a man who owns the station. Carolyn Vance has been the head purser of Sovereign Airways First Class for 18 years, and she earned that title the way most things worth having are earned through genuine, sustained, unglamorous work. In her first 5 years, she memorized the dietary preferences of more than 200 frequent flyer members. She learned 3 phrases in each of the 7 languages most commonly spoken by Sovereign's international passengers, not because anyone asked her to, but because it seemed like the right thing to know. She received the Sovereign Service Excellence Award 4 consecutive years, 2011 through 2014. The plaques are in her apartment in Queens, arranged on a shelf she dusted last Saturday, as she dusts it every Saturday. She was at one time genuinely excellent at her job. Something happened to that excellence somewhere in the second decade. Not a single moment, not a crisis or a confrontation or a decision she can point to. More like a slow pressure change, the kind that happens so gradually that the instrument measuring it stops registering because it has recalibrated to accept the new normal as the baseline. What changed was this. Carolyn stopped distinguishing between authority and judgment. They had always lived close together in her professional identity, but somewhere along the way they merged, and once they merged they became something different from either one. They became certainty. The absolute unexamined conviction that her read on a situation was not simply her read, but the truth that her assessment of a passenger was not an impression, but a fact that 18 years of experience in these cabins had given her not just knowledge but the right to act on knowledge she had not actually acquired. She developed a taxonomy, not written, not spoken aloud in any briefing room or training session, but present in every interaction, present in the micro-adjustments of her service, present in which passengers received champagne with a warm smile, and which received it with the specific neutral efficiency that communicates without a single prosecutable word that you are being tolerated rather than welcomed. She filed 11 complaints against passengers in 6 years. 3 were investigated. None resulted in formal action against her. The institutional machinery that should have noticed a pattern chose not to look at it because Carolyn Vance was senior and experienced, and her performance reviews were excellent, and the path of least resistance in any large organization almost always runs through the experienced employee and away from the uncomfortable question. Tonight, Carolyn is in a sharper mood than usual for a reason that has nothing to do with the man in seat 1A. Senator Patricia Owens is on this flight. Senator Owens occupies seat 1B directly beside suite 1A, and Carolyn has served her 3 times before. She is the kind of passenger Carolyn considers this cabin built for composed, appreciative, aware of the difference between good service and excellent service, and generous with the kind of recognition that costs nothing but means something. Carolyn has already repolished the champagne flutes twice. She has adjusted the cabin lighting to a precise amber tone that she knows from experience photographs beautifully. She has arranged the senator's welcome amenity with the care of someone setting a table for a dinner they have been anticipating for weeks. She wants this flight to be perfect. When she comes out of the forward galley at 11:44 p.m. and sees the man in Suite 1A, she sees him in the context of everything she has just arranged: the crystal, the amber light, the senator's leather portfolio open on the tray table beside her, and then a large black man. Hoodie, faded jeans, worn sneakers, eyes closed, earbuds in, utterly unbothered. The click that happens in Carolyn Vance's mind is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is the quiet, almost imperceptible sound of a decision being made in the space where a question should have been. She does not consider that he scanned at the gate. She does not consider that the boarding system accepted his pass without flagging anything. She does not ask Sophia to verify the manifest. She does not look at the small VIP notation attached to his profile. She looks at the hoodie. She looks at the jeans. She looks at Suite 1A, which is directly beside the senator, which is in her first-class cabin, which is her domain, her carefully maintained kingdom of crystal and amber light, and people who look the part. And she walks toward him. Her arms are beginning to cross before she has taken 3 steps. At 11:46 p.m., Gate 14 is a quiet world. The rain against the terminal windows provides a white noise backdrop to the gentle sounds of boarding, the soft thump of overhead compartments, the murmur of passengers settling into seats, the faint clink of crystal being arranged in the forward galley. 8 passengers are currently in the first-class cabin. The full complement has not yet boarded. The atmosphere is the particular hush of a late-night flight, everyone moving more carefully than they would during the day, aware in some collective way that the hours ahead belong to sleep. Nathan Pierce occupies Suite 2A. He is 34 years old. He wears a slate-gray Patagonia vest over a white t-shirt, the particular uniform of a certain kind of successful person who wants to communicate that they have arrived without appearing to care about arriving. His phone is already in his hand, not recording, just present the way it is always present, an extension of his consciousness that he has long since stopped noticing the weight of. He has 1.8 million followers distributed across 3 platforms. He posts about technology, culture, travel, and the occasional piece of genuine human drama when he encounters one. His content philosophy, which he has articulated in interviews more times than he can count, is simple: document what is real, because real is the thing most people are looking for. He is sipping sparkling water and reading something on his tablet when he notices Carolyn's posture change as she leaves the galley. His phone hand tightens very slightly. A reflex, not a decision. Not yet. Margaret Flores holds Suite 2B. She is 71 years old, retired after 32 years of teaching 7th grade English in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and she is traveling to New York to see her youngest daughter's new apartment for the first time. She carries a worn paperback mystery with a cracked spine that suggests she has read it before and did not care. She wears small pearl earrings and a cardigan, the deep amber orange of October leaves, and the specific composed alertness of a woman who has spent 3 decades reading rooms full of 12-year-olds and can identify a problem unfolding from 50 feet with the accuracy of long practice. She looks up from her book when Carolyn passes her with those crossed arms and that particular forward lean of someone who has already decided, and she watches. She does not reach for her phone. She simply watches with the full attention of someone who has learned that the first thing witnesses owe a situation is their uninterrupted presence. Senator Patricia Owens commands Suite 1B. She is 58 years old. Her posture is the posture of a woman who has spent decades being observed and has learned to treat her own body as a kind of ongoing public statement. Perfectly upright, shoulders back. The awareness of a camera even when no camera is visible. She is reviewing printed briefing documents in a dark leather portfolio. Her reading glasses precise on her face, and she has already accepted the champagne poured by Sophia Reyes 20 minutes ago, with the warm but distracted courtesy of someone who is accustomed to service appearing without having to think about it. When Carolyn passes toward Suite 1A, the senator notices only peripherally. She assumes it is about her refill. Drew Talbot stands at the galley entrance. He is 29 years old, Carolyn's deputy, 11 months into a role that requires him to translate her directions into actions and her moods into atmospheres. He has become over those 11 months skilled at reading Carolyn's pressure systems, knowing when a front is building, knowing what it usually produces. He sees her crossing the cabin toward Suite 1A now with her arms crossed and her jaw set, and something in his stomach performs a small, uncertain maneuver. Sophia Reyes works in the forward galley. She is 26. 9 months with Sovereign. Dark hair, warm brown eyes, hands that move with the focused efficiency of someone who takes each task seriously because each task is in its small way a form of care. She has been stocking miniature bottles in a specific order that makes service faster during the beverage run, an efficiency she figured out on her own in month 3 and that no one else on the crew has noticed. She sees Carolyn's direction of travel, her hands slow on the bottles. Something in her chest does a quiet, uncertain thing. She makes herself go back to the bottles. She tells herself it is not her place. In the back rows of first class, a businesswoman types on a laptop. A young couple on their honeymoon share a set of earbuds over something on a tablet, their shoulders touching. A white-haired man in a linen suit reads a physical newspaper with the unhurried attention of someone who still believes print deserves that kind of time. None of them yet understand that they are witnesses. Carolyn reaches Suite 1A. She does not crouch. She does not lower her voice. She does not use the gentle, deferential approach that every hospitality training program in the world teaches for waking a sleeping passenger. The one that begins with a soft presence and a quieter-than-conversation tone and the implicit acknowledgement that sleep is something a person has a right to, and interrupting it requires a kind of courtesy. She taps his shoulder. Once, then again, harder. The tap of a person who expects compliance before conversation. Marcus's eyes open. The process is slow. He is very far down in sleep, the kind that the body enters when it has been denied long enough that it stops waiting for permission and simply takes what it needs. His head lifts from its tilted position. He blinks. The amber light of the cabin registers as impossibly bright after the dark behind his closed eyes. He pulls one earbud out. "Sir," her voice has the edge of something that has already made up its mind. "I need to see your boarding pass. Right now." His voice, when it comes, is thick with sleep but not confused. He wakes the way some people do, slowly in body, fully in mind. "I scanned at the gate," he says. "Green light. No flags. I need to see it physically." "No, please. No, could you?" Just the words, bare and directive. He pats his jacket pockets. His movements are unhurried. He is not performing calm. He simply is calm the way a man is calm who has woken up in enough uncomfortable situations to understand that panic has never once improved one. "My phone is in my bag. Let me find it." He pauses. "Or you can just pull up the manifest." Webb. Marcus Webb. Seat 1. A. It will be there. She does not move toward the manifest. Her arms complete their crossing. "I don't have a Webb on my verified list," she says. The lie arrives smoothly, practiced in the particular way of someone who is not lying about a fact, but about a process, who is not saying something false, but omitting the simple step of looking that would make the false thing true. Marcus blinks. He is fully awake now. His eyes focus on her with a clarity that is not aggressive, but is also not the confused deference of a man who believes he has done something wrong. "That is impossible," he says. His voice is still level. "I booked this seat 3 hours ago through your premium reservation system. Paid full fare. Received confirmation immediately. My name is in your system. Sir." Her voice drops a register, the particular tonal shift of someone who believes they are de-escalating while actually tightening the noose. "You are creating a disruption in my first-class cabin. If you cannot produce documentation in the next moment, I am going to need you to move to the economy section until we resolve this." The phrase, economy section, not offered as a neutral alternative, delivered as a verdict, a sentence, the particular inflection of someone who has decided where a person belongs and is now informing them of it with the patience of someone explaining something to a child. Marcus is quiet for a moment. From Suite 2, a Nathan Pierce sets his tablet on the tray table. He does not pick up his phone yet. He watches. From Suite, 2B Margaret Flores's paperback goes face down in her lap. Marcus straightens in the seat to his full-seated height. He looks at Carolyn Vance with the kind of attention that is uncomfortable to receive because it contains no anger to push against, no defensiveness to exploit, no shame to leverage. Just clarity. Just a man who sees exactly what is happening and has decided how he's going to meet it. "You are making a mistake," he says. Simple, certain, not a threat. A fact delivered with the patience of someone who knows it will be proven true and is giving her the opportunity to prevent that proof from becoming public. She stares at him. Then she says it. The only mistake here is someone thinking they can walk onto a $6,000 suite in a hoodie and sneakers and expect nobody to say anything. She says it out loud. Not implied, not coded. Said with the confidence of someone who believes the room is on her side, who believes the senator in 1B and the amber light and 18 years of commendations all form a structure that will hold whatever she puts on top of it. The words land in the cabin. The businesswoman in row 3 looks up from her laptop. The honeymoon couple in row 4 exchanges a glance. The white-haired man lowers his newspaper by an inch. Nathan Pierce picks up his phone. His thumb moves once. The screen lights, then dims, held low against his thigh. Margaret Flores does not look at her book. She looks at Marcus. Sophia Reyes at the galley entrance hears it. Her hands go absolutely still on the bottle she is holding. She does not move. But something in her changes, something that will be relevant later. Something that she is not yet done processing. Marcus does not respond immediately. He looks at Carolyn. He looks past her toward the forward cabin wall the way a person looks when they are not retreating but gathering. He reaches slowly into his jacket pocket and finds his phone. He opens it. The voice memo application is already running red dot pulsing in the corner of the screen as it has been running since he boarded. He does not show her this. He does not comment on it. He places the phone face down on the tray table. Then he looks at her with the particular steadiness of someone who has made a decision. "Check. Your manifest." He says it quietly. 3 words, each one with its own weight, its own space, the way people speak when they want to be sure nothing is lost in transmission. She does not move toward the manifest. She looks at him for another moment. Then she turns and walks toward the galley with the purposeful stride of someone who has decided that this situation requires reinforcement. She is going to get Drew. Marcus watches her go. He does not call after her. He does not reach for the call button. He does not do any of the things that would escalate this into something she could point to. He simply picks up his phone from the tray table, checks that the recording is still running, and sets it back down. Then he looks out the rain-streaked window at the runway lights below. He has been here before. Not this specific cabin, not this specific woman, not this specific rain, but this room. He has been in this room many, many times. The window, the rain, the runway lights bleeding into each other through the wet glass. Marcus watches them, and the memory surfaces the way memories do when the present moment rhymes too precisely with the past to stay separate from it. He is 27 years old. He has just closed his first real investment deal, a struggling regional carrier in the Southeast. Not large, not glamorous, but real. A foundation. The kind of deal that tells you that the thing you thought was possible actually is. He is flying to Memphis to celebrate with the two partners who believed in him early enough that it cost them something to do it. He arrives at the hotel at 8:14 p.m., the Meridian Hotel, downtown Memphis. 4 stars. He is wearing slacks and a button-down shirt, nothing extravagant but clean and deliberate, because at 27 he still believes that presentation can preempt assumption and has not yet fully learned otherwise. He approaches the front desk. The man behind it looks at him, then at his bag, then back at him. The sequence takes approximately 2 seconds and contains in those 2 seconds an entire verdict. "I am sorry," the man says. "We are fully booked." Marcus produces his confirmation number. He booked 3 weeks in advance. He has the email on his phone. He has the reference number memorized. He presents all of this with the calm efficiency of someone who has already anticipated the response and prepared for it. The man types something, takes a long time, types something else. "I am sorry," he says again. "There seems to be a system issue. We cannot honor that rate tonight." Marcus asks to speak to a manager. The manager comes. She is younger than the clerk. She looks at Marcus with the same assessment, the same 2-second verdict, the same rearrangement of her expression into something smooth and professional that cannot quite conceal what preceded it. She tells him warmly that she would be happy to help him find an alternative property nearby. He walks out of the lobby. He sits in the rental car in the parking garage for 11 minutes. He knows that if he does not sit for those 11 minutes, he will say something or do something that will be used to confirm exactly the story they have already written about him. So he sits. He breathes. He does the work that no one sees, and no one credits the internal labor of refusing to become the thing someone needs you to be in order to justify their behavior. Then he drives to the Hampton Inn 2 miles away, checks in, gets a room that is clean and adequate and completely without pretension, eats a vending machine sandwich sitting on the edge of the bed, calls his mother. She says, "Baby, those rooms they put you in are never the rooms they keep for people they respect. One day you are going to own the building." He thinks she is speaking metaphorically. He does not sleep that night. He spends the hours until 5 a.m., revising his 5-year business plan on a yellow legal pad, the one he has been carrying in his bag for 3 months, the one that will eventually 9 years and 14 major deals later become the architecture of Apex Capital Group. The memory releases him. He is back in the amber light of Suite 1A on a plane he owns in a cabin where a woman with a silver name tag has just told him he does not look like someone who belongs in a $6,000 suite. He looks at the rain on the window. He thinks about the Hampton Inn, the legal pad, his mother's voice. He thinks about what it means that this is still happening. Not in spite of everything he has built, but alongside it simultaneously in the same world where the paperwork sits in a London server with his name at the bottom. He is still calm. He is always calm. But the recording app is still running and Carolyn Vance is coming back down the aisle with Drew Talbot behind her, and the runway lights blur in the rain outside, and Marcus Webb waits. Carolyn returns with Drew at her shoulder, and a recalibrated strategy visible in her posture, softer in tone, harder in direction, the approach of someone who has decided that the polite version of removal is still removal. "Sir," she says. The word "sir" doing a specific kind of work, formally respectful and subtly diminishing at the same time. "I want to get this resolved for you as quickly and smoothly as possible. Our system is showing a discrepancy that we need to sort out. If you come with me to the rear of the aircraft, we can check everything there and get it straightened out without any further disruption to the other passengers." The rear of the aircraft. Economy. She says it as though she is offering a kindness, as though she is managing an inconvenience for his benefit. Marcus does not move. His hands remain on the armrests. His voice is even and unhurried. "The discrepancy is in your system, not my booking," he says. "My reservation is valid. My payment cleared 3 hours ago. My name and my status notation are in your manifest. I am not going to the back of this aircraft. Carolyn's diplomatic register slips by 1 degree just enough to show something with more edge underneath. Sir, I really must insist. Then insist from your manifest, he says. Search web. First class. Suite 1A. It takes approximately 4 seconds. I have been on this aircraft for 23 minutes. My pass was scanned at the gate. It cleared. There is no basis for this conversation other than the basis you brought to it. The cabin is very quiet. Carolyn turns to Drew with the controlled authority of someone redirecting without retreating. Drew, verify the passenger list. Open the manifest. Drew steps toward the cabin computer at the forward station. He is aware of being watched, a sensation that has increased noticeably in the last several minutes, and he moves with the careful deliberateness of someone who knows that each action is being registered. He pulls up the manifest. He scans down. His eyes move across the screen, and something in his face changes, a small specific change, the kind that happens when a person's eyes find something they were not entirely sure would be there. He looks up. Carolyn is still facing Marcus. He starts to say something. She cuts him off before the first word clears his mouth. Is he on the verified list? Drew's eyes go from the screen to Carolyn's back, to Marcus, to the screen again. The manifest he starts. Is he on the verified list? The word verified, doing what it is designed to do, imply that the manifest is not the authority, that there is a higher standard, that appearing in the official record of the flight is not sufficient evidence of belonging. Drew closes his mouth. He looks at the screen again. There is a notation here, he says slowly and carefully. A special flag on the profile. It needs to be confirmed with the gate. Carolyn says, already turning back to Marcus, already acting on a conclusion she made before any of this conversation began. Which means you need to leave the aircraft while we confirm. She says it with the specific finality of someone who believes the conversation is over. From the galley entrance, Sophia Reyes takes 1 step forward. She stops. Her voice comes out smaller than she intended, but it comes out. The gate agent already scanned his pass, she says. It cleared the system. There were no flags. Carolyn does not turn around. Her voice drops to the temperature of a midwinter morning. Sophia, I need you to finish galley prep. Sophia holds her position for 1 moment. Then she takes a half step backward but does not go into the galley. She stands at the entrance, visible, present, making herself a witness. In Suite 2. A Nathan Pierce has his phone recording. The angle is low, just above the tray table edge. The screen tilted so the lens catches the aisle and the figures in it. He is not live yet. He is capturing. His caption field is open and he is typing slowly, 1 thumb. Something is happening on this flight. If you are here, stay with me. Viewers 0. But the footage is running. In Suite 2B, Margaret Flores has closed her book. She is leaning forward by 1 precise inch, enough to improve her sightline without rising from her seat. She holds the book in both hands the way she holds things when she is steadying herself. Marcus speaks. What is your name? Carolyn blinks. C. Vance. Head purser. He says her name. Carolyn. With the quiet precision of someone choosing a tool. I'm going to ask you 1 more time to pull up my reservation, look at the notation on my profile, and then take a moment to think carefully about what you decide to do next. He pauses. Because I want you to have the opportunity to make a different choice before this situation becomes something neither of us can reverse. The offer is genuine. It is also in its precision devastating because it makes absolutely clear that he knows exactly where this is going if she does not take it. She stares at him. The offer hangs in the air above the amber light and the leather and the cold champagne and the rain on the windows. She does not take it. From Suite 1B, Senator Patricia Owens looks up from her briefing portfolio. Is there a problem? Her tone manages to convey that problems in her vicinity are by definition problems that should not exist. Carolyn turns toward the senator with a warmth that is as instantaneous as it is total. Just a small seating discrepancy. Senator, it won't affect your flight at all. She glances back at Marcus. But I do need this passenger to cooperate with our verification process. The word passenger in that sentence carries a weight it is not supposed to carry. It makes him a category rather than a person, an item being processed rather than a human being with a name she has just used. Senator Owens looks across at Marcus. Their eyes meet for 1 second. He holds her gaze steadily. She looks away first, back to her briefing portfolio, her face arranging itself into the careful neutrality of someone who has decided not to decide. Marcus looks back at Carolyn. You have made your choice, he says. That is all right. He picks up his phone from the tray table. He dials a number. It rings twice. Tamara Hill answers on the second ring. She has been working with Marcus for 7 years. She knows from the specific quality of the pause that precedes him speaking exactly what kind of call this is. Tamara. He says only her name. Her voice is immediately focused. I see the flight status. Recording application. Already running, he says. Stand by. He holds the phone against his leg. He does not put it to his ear. He does not make a performance of it. He simply holds it, and the recording app captures everything within 6 feet of him with the quiet, patient fidelity of a device that has been asked to do this exact thing many times before. Carolyn watches this exchange with the expression of someone processing a variable they cannot identify. The call bothers her. She does not know why not yet, but something about the 2 words of that exchange, the one name, and the 2-word response has introduced a frequency she cannot tune out. She turns to Drew. Her voice drops to where only he can hear it. Call Port Authority. I need an officer at aircraft door 1. Non-compliant passenger refusing to identify himself, verbally intimidating crew. Drew's face does a thing. It is not shock exactly. It is the look of someone standing at an intersection watching a car run a red light. Someone who can see what is about to happen and cannot stop it, and knows that their inability to stop it is itself a choice. He says, Carolyn. She says, now. He looks at her for 1 more second. He picks up the interphone. Right here. This is the moment. A flight attendant is about to call law enforcement on a paying passenger who has done absolutely nothing wrong. A man who has been calm-seated, reasonable, and cooperative. A man who asked 4 times to have his name checked in a system that would have resolved everything in 4 seconds. And no one in that cabin is stopping it. I want to ask you something. If you were sitting in Suite 2A right now watching this unfold in real time, what would you do? Would you speak? Would you stay quiet? Would you reach for your phone? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know. If you are watching this for the first time, subscribe right now. Hit the bell. Because what walks through that cabin door in the next 90 seconds is something none of those passengers will forget. Now, back to gate 14. Drew reaches for the interphone. Sophia steps out of the galley. She does it without a speech prepared, without a plan. She steps out because something in her chest has reached a threshold that she cannot talk herself back below, and the only direction available is forward. Her voice is not loud. It does not fill the cabin. But it is clear. I need to say something. Carolyn turns. Her expression is the expression of someone who cannot believe they are being interrupted during the execution of a management decision by a junior employee with 9 months of experience. It contains in its stillness an entire speech about hierarchy and timing and the appropriate moment for junior staff to offer input. Which moment is not this one? Sophia. The name delivered like punctuation. Sophia does not back down. Not fully. Her hands at her sides are not entirely steady, a tremor visible at the fingertips if you are close enough to see it. But her voice holds. I was at the boarding door tonight. she says. I scanned the passes as passengers came through. His was valid. The system confirmed it. Green light. No holds, no flags, no alerts of any kind. If there is a discrepancy in the manifest, it is a technical error on our end. Not a problem with his booking. Carolyn is very still. I am not suggesting we ignore a system issue. Sophia continues, and her voice gains something as she commits to the sentence, gains the specific quality of someone who has realized that they have already paid the price of speaking and may as well spend it fully. I am suggesting we check the system properly before we contact law enforcement about a passenger who has produced valid identification and whose name appears in our records. From Suite 2, a Nathan Pierce tilts his phone by 1 degree. His viewer count is 47. He has gone live in the last 30 seconds quietly without announcing it. From Suite 2B, Margaret Flores allows herself a small exhale. Something has shifted. Not everything. The tide is still going out, but the direction of the water has changed by a degree. Carolyn's voice drops to the specific temperature of a supervisor who will remember this exchange at every performance review going forward, who will recall it with a precision that does not require notes. You will return to galley prep, she says, and you will remain in the galley until I ask for you. Do you understand me? She says. Do you understand me the way people say it when they mean, do you understand what I can do to you? Sophia holds Carolyn's gaze. 2 full seconds. In those 2 seconds, she does the arithmetic that everyone in her position eventually has to do what it costs to speak versus what it costs not to. She has 9 months in this job. She has a junior purser certification she has been working toward for 6 of those 9 months. She has a supervisor who has just explicitly threatened her continued employment with the phrase, remain in the galley. She takes a half step backward. She does not go all the way into the galley. She stands at the entrance, visible, present, not retreating and not advancing. A person making the specific, costly, unremarked choice to remain a witness when removal would have been easier. Marcus, in Suite 1A, sees it. He does not look at her directly. He does not nod or acknowledge, but he sees it, and the seeing of it goes somewhere internal into the specific category of things he will not forget. Drew makes the call. His voice on the interphone is professional and level, the voice of a man who has made a decision he has not finished making and is moving through the mechanics of it before the rest of him catches up. Port Authority. This is Sovereign Airways Flight 2247 at Gate 14. We have a situation in first class. Non-compliant passenger in Suite 1A refusing to produce documentation. Verbally intimidating crew members. Requesting an officer at aircraft door 1. He sets down the interphone. He does not look at Sophia. Sophia, in the galley entrance, has her hand on the rim of the counter. Not gripping it, just resting there. The way you rest your hand on something solid when you need to remember the solidity of things. What Drew said on that call is recorded in the Port Authority dispatch log. Every word of it. Non-compliant. Refusing to produce documentation. Verbally intimidating. And Marcus has said none of those things. He has done none of those things. He has been seated, even voiced cooperative, to the point of offering his name 4 separate times and asking 4 separate times for the simple verification that would have resolved everything in the first 90 seconds. Carolyn now makes 2 mistakes in rapid succession that transform a bad judgment call into something with legal dimensions. The first mistake, she approaches Nathan Pierce. Sir, she says with the practiced warmth she deploys for passengers she needs something from. I am going to need you to put your phone away. Recording other passengers without their consent is not permitted in the aircraft cabin. Nathan looks up from his phone. He looks at her with the specific patience of someone who has been told incorrect things by authority figures before and has learned to respond with courtesy and precision. I am not recording any individual passenger, he says. I am documenting what I am observing in the cabin, which is my right. I will keep my phone where it is. Carolyn stares at him. He holds the gaze without hostility and without yielding. She says, "That is a security concern, and I have the authority to have your equipment confiscated if you continue to." "I would encourage you to check the relevant regulations before you finish that sentence," Nathan says, pleasantly. Then he tilts his phone slightly upward so the frame is wider. His viewer count is 312. The comment thread is already moving. A dozen people typing simultaneously, the words coming in faster than anyone can read them. The second mistake is larger. Senator Owens has been watching the exchange with Nathan and Carolyn with the particular alertness of a politician reading a room. She speaks now, leaning slightly toward Carolyn from Suite 1B, the easy intimacy of someone accustomed to being the senior presence in any exchange. "Is this person creating a disruption?" she asks. "Because I simply cannot have my travel delayed. Is there a safety issue I should be aware of?" Carolyn straightens. She says in a voice that carries clearly through the first 4 rows. He refuses to produce valid identification when asked and has been making threatening statements to crew members throughout this interaction. Threatening statements, said out loud, in front of a sitting United States senator, in front of a man with a camera running, in front of a cabin containing a retired school teacher who has been cataloging every word and movement for the last 9 minutes. In front of Marcus himself, who has a voice recording application capturing everything from 6 feet away. The lie has mass now. It has been released into a room full of people who will remember it. Sophia Reyes, in the galley entrance, closes her eyes. She keeps them closed for exactly 1 second. Then she opens them. Marcus picks up his phone from the tray table. He does not raise his voice. He does not stand. He simply looks around the cabin at the people within earshot and says to no one specifically, and therefore to everyone. Everything from this point forward is documented. Carolyn hears it. She processes it. She decides it is a bluff. In Suite 2B, Margaret Flores has set her book down permanently. She is watching Marcus with the full, unmediated attention that she once gave to students who were being treated unfairly by other students while adults told themselves it was complicated. She picks up her phone with the careful deliberateness of someone who does not use technology as a reflex. She does not begin recording. She does something simpler and more durable. She opens her email. She begins typing. Her address book contains the Sovereign Airways Customer Relations address and the Port Authority Civilian Complaints Office, both of which she added to her contacts list in the years after her nephew experienced something on an airplane that she has never entirely stopped thinking about. She writes the date, the flight number, the gate number, the time. Then she begins to write what she has witnessed. From Suite 2. Nathan speaks softly into his phone, barely above a whisper, the kind of low commentary that is barely audible to the person beside him, but carries clearly to a phone microphone held 12 inches from his mouth. "What you are watching," he says, "is a woman who was told 4 times to check the passenger manifest and chose not to. She has now called law enforcement and told them this man is verbally threatening. I am looking at this man. He is sitting in his seat. He is calm. He has not raised his voice. He has not moved aggressively. He has not threatened anyone. I want you to see this clearly. Viewer count 891. Comment thread, is this real? This cannot be real. Someone help him. He's just sitting there. Why isn't anyone stopping this?" Drew Talbot stands in the galley with his hands flat on the counter. He is doing the specific internal work of a person who has made a choice they cannot entirely stand behind and cannot quite undo. He looks at Sophia. She looks back at him. In that exchange, in the 4 seconds of it, everything that is true about both of them is visible, though neither says a word. The sound of footsteps on the jet bridge begins. Heavy, deliberate, coming fast. Carolyn Vance stands at aircraft door 1 with one hand braced against the doorframe, her back to the cabin and the jet bridge extending around her like a tunnel of blue institutional carpet and fluorescent light. She is speaking to the Port Authority dispatcher with the calm authority of someone delivering a factual report. First-class cabin, she says. Suite 1A. Male passenger approximately 40 to 45 years old, African-American, large build. Refusing to produce documentation when requested by crew. Non-compliant with repeated crew instructions. Has made verbally threatening statements to multiple crew members during this interaction. I believe he may have used fraudulent documents to board. Fraudulent documents. She says it with the certainty of a person who has decided that her belief in something is the same as its truth. In the galley, Drew hears the word fraudulent. He is standing 4 feet from the interphone, close enough that the word reaches him clearly. His face does a specific thing. Not surprise, because some part of him has been watching this build. Something closer to the expression of a person watching a structure they helped construct develop cracks that they knew were possible and hoped would not show. He looks at Sophia. She is staring at the galley counter with her jaw set. She says without looking up, "She just told them fraudulent." He says nothing. She says, "Drew, you saw his name. You saw the VIP flag on his profile." He still says nothing. She says, "That flag was clear. You know what it means." He picks up a bottle from the counter and turns away. Not aggressively, just away. In the cabin, Nathan's phone is aimed at the boarding door frame, wide, capturing Carolyn's silhouette and the rectangle of jet bridge light behind her. His viewer count is 400. He is not commenting now. He is simply recording. The silence is its own kind of testimony. From Suite 2B, Margaret Flores is still writing her email. She has added 3 new paragraphs in the last 7 minutes, each one precise and specific, each one grounded in what she directly observed rather than what she inferred. The word fraudulent, which she can hear from where she sits, receives its own sentence. Marcus in Suite 1. A has heard it too. He looks at the seat back in front of him. His expression does not change. The change happened internally somewhere behind the calm, where it joins everything else he has stored in that place over the course of a life that has required him to store a great deal. Carolyn ends the call. She straightens. She turns back toward the cabin with the posture of someone who has resolved a problem. She walks to Suite 1A. "The officer will be here shortly," she says. "In the meantime, I am giving you one final opportunity to come to the rear of the aircraft voluntarily. If you cooperate now, this will go much better for you. For you." The phrase carrying the specific weight of someone who believes they still hold all the relevant cards and is being generous in the dispensing of them. Marcus looks up at her. For a long moment, he simply looks at her with the full, unhurried attention that he has given her throughout this entire encounter, the attention that does not contain the anger she has been trying to provoke because he has not felt anger, not exactly, not in the way she expects or needs. He smiles. It is a small smile, controlled, not warm and not mocking. The specific smile of a man who knows something the other person does not know yet, and understands that knowing it does not require performance. "I will be right here," he says. "In my seat." She blinks. He closes his eyes. The recording app pulses. Carolyn turns away. There is something in the smile that has gotten under her skin in a way she cannot fully identify, an unease that she pushes down under the reassurance of 18 years and a badge, and an officer who is currently walking through the terminal toward Gate 14. In Suite 2, a Nathan speaks so softly he is barely audible to himself. He smiled at her. He just smiled. If you can see this clearly, you understand what that smile means. That is not the smile of someone who is afraid of what is coming. That is the smile of someone who is waiting for the rest of the room to catch up. Viewer count 5,800. The comment thread has found a rhythm waiting. We are all waiting. The sound of footsteps on the jet bridge starts at a distance and grows. Officer Ray Gutierrez has been working Port Authority for 22 years. He has responded to somewhere between 400 and 500 aircraft disturbances in those 22 years. He has developed over the course of that particular education a set of instincts that are distinct from the official protocols that exist slightly ahead of the protocols informing them before the procedures begin. The first of those instincts is scan the room before you scan the individual. He boards through aircraft door 1 with his partner, Officer Teresa Walsh, and he does exactly this. His eyes move across the first-class cabin in a single sweep. What he sees, a quiet space, amber-lit, no signs of physical disturbance, no raised voices, no damaged property, no passenger in distress. 8 people seated, most of them watching the boarding door, with the particular expression of people who have been waiting for something to happen. 1 man in Suite 1. A large, calm hands visible on the armrests looking at him with the expression of a person who has been through versions of this before and is prepared for all of them. Gutierrez turns to Carolyn. She is standing near the galley entrance with her arms crossed and her expression arranged in the specific way of someone who expects vindication and is prepared to deliver the brief necessary to produce it. "Where is the disturbance?" he asks. Not unkindly. Factually. "Suite 1A, she says. He refuses to produce valid documentation. He has been making threatening statements to crew members throughout this interaction. Gutierrez looks at Marcus. Marcus is looking back at him with the expression of a man who is not guilty of anything, which is a different expression from the expression of a man who knows he is not guilty of anything, and the difference is readable to someone who has been doing this for 22 years. Sir Gutierrez says, "What is your name, Marcus Webb? Do you have identification?" Yes. He produces it with the methodical care of someone who understands that in this situation, each movement is being observed, and each movement should therefore be deliberate. Driver's license. Sovereign Airways Elite Member Card. Phone showing the booking confirmation from 3 hours ago with the gold tier status notation and the VIP flag on his profile clearly visible on the screen. Gutierrez looks at these. He takes his time. He turns the license over. He looks at the phone screen. He looks at the elite card. He is doing the work properly, which means he is doing it without a predetermined conclusion. He turns to Carolyn. "Did you consult your passenger manifest?" Her jaw tightens by 1 degree. "There is a system discrepancy. Did you consult your manifest?" He says it again with the patience of someone asking a procedural question that has a specific procedural answer. The question sits in the air. From the forward station, Drew Talbot makes a decision. He may not be entirely sure it is the right decision, may not be sure he deserves to make it, may carry the awareness that his timing is late enough that its value is diminished. But he makes it. He turns to the cabin computer. He pulls up the manifest. He does not look at Carolyn. He says in a voice that is level and carries clearly through the front of the cabin. His name is here. Marcus Webb. Suite 1A. Gold tier status. There is a VIP notation on the profile. An executive access flag. The cabin is quiet. Gutierrez looks at Drew. Then at Carolyn. Her expression is doing something she is not entirely in control of. She looks at Drew with the expression reserved for betrayals committed by people you trained. Sophia steps out of the galley entrance. She stands in the aisle. Her voice is steady. He has been in that seat since boarding. He did not raise his voice. He did not threaten anyone. I was at the boarding door when he boarded. His pass was valid. Everything I am telling you I will put in writing. She looks at Gutierrez directly when she says the last sentence. Not at Carolyn. Not at Marcus. At the officer, because the officer is the person who needs to know. Gutierrez looks from Drew to Sophia to Marcus to Carolyn. He has 22 years of reading rooms, and this room is readable. He says to Carolyn quietly, "Ma'am, is there a safety issue here, or is this a customer service situation?" The question is devastating in its precision. The two categories are not the same. They have never been the same, and the distinction between them is exactly what every decision Carolyn has made tonight has obscured. She begins to speak. She stops. She begins again. Gutierrez says, "Is there a specific identifiable safety concern?" And Carolyn, cornered by the structure of her own choices, says his presence in this cabin is inappropriate. The word inappropriate lands in the cabin the way a match lands in dry grass. Nathan's viewer counts 7,200. His phone hand tightens. Margaret Flores's email is now 6 paragraphs long. Senator Owens is looking at the safety card with an intensity that borders on devotional. Gutierrez looks at Marcus one more time. And then, in the specific way of bureaucratic systems that produce outcomes no one inside them fully intended, he follows the designated authority. The head purser of a commercial aircraft has the designated authority. The protocol exists. He is inside it. "Sir," he says, "I am going to need you to stand up and come with me until we sort this out at the gate." Marcus looks at him for a moment. He nods. He stands. They are about to walk a paying passenger off an airplane he legally owns in handcuffs. Sit with that for a moment. Because this is real. This is the world as it exists, not as we wish it were. A man asked 4 times to have his name checked. 4 times. And now he is standing up to be removed from a seat that belongs to him. Have you ever been in a room where the truth was sitting right there, obvious to everyone, and the person with the most authority was the only one who refused to look at it? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear from you. And if you have not subscribed yet, do it right now. Hit the bell. Because what is about to come through that boarding door in the next 90 seconds will change every assumption you have about power and who actually holds it. Marcus stands at his full height, 6 feet 2 inches, broad across the shoulders in the way of someone who moves through the world with full physical presence and has learned to manage that presence carefully because presence in certain rooms is interpreted as threat. He keeps his hands visible and his movements slow and deliberate. He has done this before. Not this specific motion, but this specific geometry of it, the calculus of a black man in a contested space making himself as legible as possible to people who have already decided what they are reading. Officer Walsh steps forward. "Hands behind your back, sir." Marcus says, "Am I under arrest?" Gutierrez detained. For questioning. Until the documentation situation is clarified. Marcus, I have provided documentation. My name is in the manifest with a VIP flag. My officer has confirmed this. My driver's license and member card have been inspected. What specific piece of the documentation situation remains open, Gutierrez, with the specific patience of a man who does not enjoy what he is doing but cannot fully articulate a way around it? Sir, please cooperate with us. A beat. Marcus looks down at his hands. Something moves across his face in the space of that moment. Not defeat. Not surrender. The deeply specifically human weariness of a man who has lived long enough in this world to know that some arguments have to be lost in order to be won, that some rooms require you to pay a cost that is not yours to pay in order to reach the moment where the full truth becomes visible and undeniable and irrefutable. He puts his hands behind his back. The click of the handcuffs. It is the loudest sound in the cabin. Not in decibels, in meaning. Margaret Flores closes her eyes. From Suite 2. A Nathan's voice drops to barely a breath. They just put handcuffs on him. He was sitting in his seat. He provided documentation. He answered every question. And they just put handcuffs on this man. His viewer count jumps to 900 in the 40 seconds after the cuffs go on. The comment thread is moving so fast it has become a single blur of color and punctuation. He reads none of it. He keeps the phone steady. Senator Owens has not moved, not spoken, not looked at anything other than the seat pocket in front of her since the word inappropriate hung in the air. She has become very small in a very large seat. Drew Talbot is standing in the galley. His hands are flat on the counter. He is looking at his own hands as though they belong to someone he is just meeting. He thinks about the word he used on the port authority call. Non-compliant. Verbally intimidating. He has known since the moment he said it that those words are on a dispatch log. He has known since the moment Gutierrez asked to see the manifest, and Drew could no longer pretend exactly what those words cost. He is still holding that cost without knowing how to set it down. Sophia Reyes walks out of the galley. She does not run. She does not shout. She does not reach for anyone or try to physically intervene. She walks out with the measured step of someone who has finished the internal argument and has arrived at the only position she can hold. She walks to the center of the first-class cabin. She stands in the aisle. Between Marcus, who is standing with his hands cuffed behind his back, and the boarding door. She looks at Carolyn. "This is wrong," she says. Her voice shakes on the first word. She says it anyway. "This is wrong, and I am going to make sure it is documented. Carolyn Sophia. You are finished for this flight. Collect your things. Sophia. I know what his boarding pass showed when he came through the door. I know what the manifest says. I know what you told Port Authority, and I know that none of those three things are consistent with each other." She turns to Gutierrez. She does not raise her voice. "I am Sophia Reyes," she says. 9 months with Sovereign Airways. I was at the boarding door for Flight 2247. His pass was valid. Green light, no holds, no flags. Whatever you were told about verbally threatening behavior is not what I witnessed in this cabin tonight. She says it simply. She says it to the person who needs to hear it. She says it in a voice that is still shaking and says it anyway, which is the only form of courage that actually counts. Officer Gutierrez looks at her. He looks at Marcus. He looks at Carolyn. And then Drew Talbot in the galley entrance in the specific slow way of someone whose conscience has finally moved faster than their fears says, "She is right." Carolyn turns to him with the expression reserved for something unimaginable. Drew says, "She is right." I pulled up the manifest. I saw his name. I saw the notation. I should have said something earlier. I am saying it now. The cabin goes quiet in a specific way. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of weight. Nathan's viewer count 11,400. And then Margaret Flores stands up. She is 71 years old. She moves with the deliberateness of someone who makes each physical decision with full awareness. She carries her paperback in one hand and her phone in the other, and she walks into the aisle and places herself beside Sophia. She looks at Officer Gutierrez. She says, "I have been a passenger on this aircraft for 38 minutes. I have observed the entirety of what has occurred in this cabin tonight. I want you to know, officer, that when your department reviews the cabin footage and when the airline reviews the statements made about threatening behavior, I am available to provide a full eyewitness account to the contrary. My name is Margaret Flores. I am a retired school teacher from Albuquerque. I have excellent recall, and I have already begun documenting what I observed in writing." She says it without drama, without performance. With the specific authority of a woman who spent 32 years ensuring that accounts of events were accurate and complete, and that the people responsible for things were identified correctly. Officer Gutierrez is looking at the three people standing in the aisle. Sophia, trembling slightly but present. Margaret, still and clear-eyed. Marcus, hands cuffed behind his back, looking at none of them but aware of all of them. He is about to speak. Then the sound starts. From the jet bridge. Not the measured footsteps of someone arriving on schedule. The distinct, unmistakable sound of someone running. Flat out. The sound of someone who has just learned that something terrible is happening and does not have the luxury of composure in their approach. Captain Diana Marsh is 48 years old. She has been chief pilot of Sovereign Airways for 6 years and chief pilot of aircraft generally for 19. And in those 19 years, she has responded to a great many unexpected situations in a great many unexpected places. She has never run to one before. She is in the crew briefing room at 11:53 p.m. when the first notification arrives. Priority 1. Red border. Sovereign Corporate Operations. Subject line, Ownership Transfer. Immediate crew action required. She has seen the earlier notification, the quiet internal memo sent at 11:31 p.m., noting the finalization of the Apex Capital acquisition of Sovereign Airways. She read it in the way of someone processing information that will be relevant tomorrow and filed it under tomorrow. There was a weather briefing to finish. There were fuel calculations. There was the specific operational focus that precedes any departure. The second notification is different. It contains a name, a seat number, a flight number, her flight number. She reads it once. She reads it again. Then she stands up from the briefing table so fast her chair scrapes back against the floor and walks out of the room at a pace that becomes a jog in the crew corridor and a full run through the gate area. Past a gate agent who calls her name and receives no response. Through the jet bridge at a sprint, taking the stairs 2 at a time in the way that a 48-year-old chief pilot does not normally take stairs. She bursts through aircraft door 1. She takes in the scene in approximately 2 seconds. Marcus Webb in handcuffs standing in the aisle. Sophia and Margaret between him and the door. Nathan in suite 2A with his phone. Carolyn standing near the galley with her arms crossed. Officer Gutierrez caught in the suspended moment between 2 possible versions of what happens next. Diana takes all of it in, and the expression on her face is the expression of someone looking at a disaster that has already happened and understanding in one terrible, comprehensive instant the full shape of it. "Stop," she says. Her voice cracks at the edge of it not with weakness, but with the exertion of someone who just ran 200 yards and is also genuinely, profoundly horrified. Nobody move. There has been a mistake. A very serious mistake. Please. No one goes anywhere. She holds up her tablet. The screen shows the corporate notification. The ownership transfer documentation. The FAA filing timestamp 6:04 a.m. London time. And in the priority summary box at the top in the red bordered alert format reserved for the most operationally significant information. New principal owner currently aboard Flight 2247. Name Marcus D. Webb. Current location Suite 1A. She looks at Carolyn. Years of working together. Years of shared flights and briefings and the accumulated small history of professional proximity. All of it rearranges itself in the 7 seconds she looks at Carolyn against what she is seeing right now, against what she knows must have happened in this cabin before she ran through that door. She says, "Carolyn, what have you done?" Not a question. A statement. The specific flatness of someone who has understood something terrible and is saying it aloud so that it becomes real. Carolyn says, "I removed a trespassing passenger from first class. I protected the cabin and the standard of service that our first-class passengers. He is not a trespassing passenger." Diana's voice rises enough that the cabin, which has been collectively holding its breath, absorbs it fully. She holds up the tablet so that the screen faces the cabin. Faces Officer Gutierrez, faces the people standing in the aisle, faces Marcus. That is not a trespassing passenger. That is Mr. Webb. Marcus Webb, founder and CEO of Apex Capital Group, the private equity firm that finalized the purchase of Sovereign Airways this morning in London. She swallows. The paperwork was filed with the FAA at 6 a.m. The ownership transfer is official, and the board of directors sent emergency notifications to all senior staff 32 minutes ago. She steps toward Marcus. Her voice drops to something closer to a whisper that still carries in the silent cabin. He owns this airline, Carolyn. He owns this aircraft. He owns every seat on it, including the seat you had him removed from. He owns the badge on your lapel and the scarf around your neck and the contract that employs you. She cannot finish the sentence in the way she might have planned to finish it because the weight of it collapses whatever professional composure she was maintaining. She looks at Officer Gutierrez. "Please remove his handcuffs," she says. "And I am sorry. I am so deeply sorry that this happened on a sovereign aircraft." Gutierrez is already moving. The click of the handcuffs unlocking is a different sound from the click of them closing. The same metal, the same mechanism, an entirely different meaning. The sound of the handcuffs opening reaches every corner of the first-class cabin. It arrives as a sound, then as a fact. Then, in the seconds after, as a reckoning, the slow, comprehensive, cascading understanding of what has just been revealed, settling over the cabin, the way light changes when a cloud moves everything the same as it was, and nothing looking the same at all. Marcus rubs his wrists. He does it slowly, deliberately, without looking at Carolyn, without looking at the officers, without performing the discomfort. He simply performs the acknowledgement of it. The redness where the metal pressed, the reality of what just happened in the physical record of his own body. Then he straightens his hoodie. He turns to face the cabin. Nathan Pierce's phone is steady. His viewer count is 16,800 and climbing. He is not commenting. He is not narrating. He is simply holding the frame and letting what is happening fill it. Margaret Flores is sitting very still in Suite 2B with her paperback face down in her lap and her full attention on Marcus. Senator Owens has not looked up from the seat pocket. Sophia Reyes is standing in the aisle with her arms at her sides and her face showing everything she has been holding since she first stepped out of the galley. The fear and the conviction and the specific exhaustion of being right in a room that did not want her to be right. Marcus looks at Carolyn. She is standing near the galley entrance. The color has left her face in the specific way of something draining, not blanching but emptying, the visual result of a person's interior architecture, losing its load-bearing elements all at once. She opens her mouth. "If I had known who you were," she begins. "Stop." He says it quietly. One word. It fills the cabin the way water fills a container to every edge. The sentence you are about to say, he says, is the problem. Not the end of it. The problem itself. If you had known who I was, you would have treated me with courtesy. You have just told me, in 8 words, that my right to be treated as a human being is contingent on my title. That dignity is something I have to earn with my credentials. He holds her gaze. I walked onto this aircraft in the same clothes I wear when I am not trying to be anything for anyone. I asked you 4 times to check a record that would have resolved this in under a minute. What I received instead was a lie told to federal law enforcement. He pauses. You said I was verbally threatening. He says it precisely without heat. That word is in a Port Authority dispatch log. It is on camera. And it has been on my phone since the moment I placed it on the tray table. He reaches into his hoodie pocket. He holds up the phone. The voice memo application is visible on the screen. The waveform of recorded audio still displayed a complete and continuous record from the moment Carolyn first approached Suite 1A. Every word of this interaction, he says, is on this recording. The cabin absorbs this. Carolyn stares at the phone, then at Marcus, then at the phone again. From Suite 2A, Nathan says into his camera quietly the commentary of someone who cannot stop himself even as he knows that what he is witnessing is larger than commentary. He has been recording the whole thing. From the beginning. All of it. Viewer count 19,400. Senator Owens has closed her eyes. Diana Marsh says, Mr. Webb, on behalf of Sovereign Airways and its leadership, I want to express. Marcus looks at her gently. Diana, you ran through a terminal to get here. You are not responsible for what happened in this cabin. He says it clearly and without ambiguity because she needs to hear it and he means it. He turns back to Carolyn. "This is what I want you to understand," he says. "The version of tonight where none of this happened was available to you. It was available after the first tap on my shoulder if you had said, 'Let me check our records.' It was available after the second tap, after the third tap, after every one of the 4 times I said, 'Check the manifest.' It was available when Sophia told you the pass was valid. When Drew confirmed my notation. When Margaret and Sophia stood in that aisle together. He lets that land. At each of those moments he says a different version of tonight was still possible. You chose not to take any of them. And then you lied. Carolyn's mouth is open. No words are coming out. This is not the absence of words. This is what it looks like when someone who has spoken with total confidence for 18 years runs out of the specific confidence required to speak. From Suite 2B, Margaret Flores does something quiet and specific. She holds out her boarding pass toward Sophia, who is still standing in the aisle. "Honey," she says, "would you mind checking something for me? I just want to make sure my name is correctly in the system." She says it with the specific warmth of a woman offering someone a reason to stand straighter. Sophia takes the boarding pass. She checks it. She hands it back. "Your reservation is perfect, Ms. Flores." "Thank you, dear," Margaret says. Then she looks at Marcus. She says, "I am going to write a very long letter." He says I would be grateful for that. From Suite 2, A. Nathan is speaking into his phone again. Viewer count at 22,000. His voice barely above a breath. This man has just had the most difficult 20 minutes of any person's night that I have ever witnessed. And he is sitting here having this conversation with more dignity than I would be capable of. I have been documenting events for 11 years. I have never seen anything like this. Officer Gutierrez, who has been standing near the boarding door since removing the handcuffs, says, "Mr. Webb, I owe you an apology. I responded to a call that gave me specific information and I followed protocol without." He stops. "What happened here tonight should not have happened." Marcus looks at him. "Your apology is accepted," he says. "I know you were given false information. Your report tonight will need to be complete and accurate." Gutierrez. "It will be. You have my word." Senator Owens opens her eyes. She looks at Marcus. She does not speak. But she looks at him with an expression that is not entirely composed, an expression that contains something more than political calculation, something closer to the look of a person confronting a version of themselves that they have been trying not to see. Marcus meets her gaze. He holds it for one measured moment. He does not smile. He does not accuse. He simply lets her see that he sees her. Then he turns back to Diana. "I need a full cabin incident report filed with Corporate Operations Legal and HR simultaneously," he says. "I need the audio from my recording transmitted to Sovereign's legal team tonight, and I need to speak with you about the crew changes required before this aircraft departs." Diana. "Yes, sir. All of it." He says, "We are going to make this flight on time." She says, "Understood." He looks around the cabin, at Nathan, who has lowered his phone to half-mast, no longer pointing but still running, at Margaret, who is watching him with the steady attention of someone who has been watching the right thing all night and knows she can stop now, at Sophia, who is standing in the aisle with her hands at her sides and her chin up and the look of someone who did not know until this hour exactly what they were made of, at Drew, visible in the galley entrance, Drew who knew and was late, who said something when it almost no longer mattered. Marcus looks at him for a moment. The look does not contain absolution. It contains something more complex, the recognition that late is not the same as never, and that the record of what Drew did and did not do will be examined properly and in full. Drew looks at the floor. Marcus looks at Carolyn. He says, "You have 30 seconds. The 30 seconds begin." The cabin is not chaotic. It is not celebratory. It does not perform relief or outrage or the theatrical satisfaction of a room that has just watched justice arrive. It is simply completely, absolutely quiet, the specific quiet of a space in which a truth has been established, and everyone present is in the process of absorbing its full weight. The businesswoman in row 3 has closed her laptop. She is looking at Marcus with the expression of someone watching something they were not expecting to see tonight and are not entirely sure how to hold. The honeymoon couple in row 4 are no longer watching the same screen. They are watching the same moment, their hands still joined across the armrest, their faces showing something that does not have a clean name, a combination of disbelief and recognition and the quiet gratitude of people who understand they have witnessed something they will carry for a long time. The white-haired man with the newspaper has folded it and placed it beside him on the seat. He has not taken his eyes off Marcus since the handcuffs were removed. Officer Gutierrez stands near the boarding door. He has 22 years of training and experience, and the professional composure that goes with them. He is not entirely in possession of that composure at this moment. He does not leave. Leaving would be the easier thing, and he does not do it. He stays, and his staying is its own kind of statement. Senator Owens is very still. The briefing portfolio is closed. The reading glasses are off. She is looking at the middle distance with the expression of a person doing significant internal work, the kind that does not produce outward movement because all the movement is happening underneath. Drew Talbot has not moved from the galley entrance. He is standing with his hands at his sides, not gripping anything, not looking at anything specific. He is doing the work of a person living inside a decision they cannot revise and must now carry. Sophia Reyes is still in the aisle. She has stopped being afraid. Not because there is nothing to be afraid of, the professional uncertainty is real and remains real, but because the fear has been surpassed by something else, something that does not have a name exactly, but that feels like having been present fully and at cost for something that mattered. Marcus is back in Suite 1A. He has returned to the seat. He did this deliberately, the return to the physical space from which he was removed, because the return is its own statement, small and undeniable and complete. He has adjusted the seat angle. His hands are folded in his lap. His phone is on the tray table, voice memo application closed, now it's work done. He is not looking at anyone. He is looking at the rain on the window, which has not changed, which is still the same rain it was when Carolyn first walked toward him 17 minutes ago, impartial and continuous and entirely indifferent to everything that has happened in the amber light of this cabin. The rain on the runway below blurs the approach lights into long ribbons of red and white. The cabin breathes. The 30 seconds are running. Marcus does not make a speech. He has 4 conversations, each one specific, direct, and precisely the length it needs to be. He does not raise his voice. He does not need to. The room is already listening in the way that rooms listen when something true is present in them, the way that silence becomes a different quality of silence when the thing being said inside it actually matters. The first conversation is with Officer Gutierrez. "Officer," he says, "your department will receive a formal communication from Sovereign's legal team regarding tonight's incident." He holds up a hand before Gutierrez can speak. "Not against you. Against the false report that brought you here." The language used in that dispatch call, the words non-compliant and verbally intimidating, are contradicted by the cabin footage, by 3 eyewitness accounts, and by the recording on my phone. Your own report needs to reflect what you actually observed when you boarded. Gutierrez: "It will, Mr. Webb. It will be detailed and accurate." Marcus: "I know it will be. Thank you for your honesty in there." He says it without irony. He means it. Gutierrez made an error under false information. He corrected course when the information changed. Marcus has enough life experience to know the difference between that and what Carolyn did. The second conversation is with Diana. "I need the following to happen before we depart," he says. "A crew change for the head purser position effective immediately. The incident report filed to Corporate Operations, Legal, and HR simultaneously tonight before this aircraft lands in Chicago. and I need Drew Talbot's role in this documented. He was given correct information about the manifest and he stayed quiet. He spoke up eventually. Both of those things need to be in the record. Diana writing on her tablet. Yes, sir. Marcus. One more thing. The senator in Suite 1B will be traveling to completion on this flight. I do not want her touched or inconvenienced, but I want it noted that she was present for the full interaction and made a specific choice about her participation in it. Diana looks up from her tablet. He says I will handle that conversation separately. The third conversation is with the cabin. He does not stand to address them. He speaks from Suite 1A in his seat, in his hoodie, in the faded jeans and scuffed sneakers. He speaks in a normal voice that carries in the quiet. I want to say something to the people in this cabin who saw what happened tonight and chose to stay present for it. He looks at Sophia first. Standing up cost you something, he says to her. It did not cost you nothing. I know what it cost, and I know when it happened, and I know that you did it more than once. That is not something that everyone does. He looks at Margaret. You stood beside her, he says, a stranger, with your paperback and your phone and your 32 years of knowing when something is wrong. I am grateful for what you did and for what you will put in writing. He looks toward Suite 2A. He does not address Nathan by name because Nathan is still technically a private citizen with a camera, and Marcus is careful about the specific privileges of that position. But he looks at Suite 2A and he says, the people who documented this tonight did something important. Not for me, for the broader truth that this kind of thing is still happening and that it needs to be seen. He looks at the honeymooning couple, the businesswoman, the white-haired man with the folded newspaper. He looks at all of them. This was not supposed to be your problem tonight, he says. You bought tickets on a flight to Chicago, and you sat down, and you were supposed to get a glass of champagne and wake up at O'Hare. Instead, you witnessed something that most people experience alone, without witnesses, without cameras, without anyone to stand beside them. He pauses. Your presence mattered, he says. The fact that this happened with witnesses changes what accountability is possible. Thank you for not looking away. The fourth conversation is with Carolyn. She is still standing near the galley entrance. She has not moved. She has been standing in the same position since Diana said he owns this airline, and she looks in this moment like a person whose body has forgotten how to be casual, how to be anything other than what she is right now. A woman at the end of something. Marcus turns to her. He does not approach her. He speaks from Suite 1A across the space between them, and his voice, when it reaches her, is neither warm nor cold, but something more final than either. Carolyn, he says. I have been in rooms that tried to make me small for the whole of my professional life. Hotels where they sent me to a different door. Boardrooms where they assumed I was the catering staff. Aircraft where something in the posture of the person approaching me told me before a word was spoken what verdict had already been reached. He holds her gaze. I did not build what I built by responding to those rooms with anger. I built it by being patient enough to outlast them. He pauses. But patience is not the same as acceptance. And what happened in this cabin tonight is going to produce consequences that are proportional to what was done. Not because I am angry, because this is what accountability looks like. He says, you have 30 seconds to collect your things and leave this aircraft. Carolyn opens her mouth. She closes it. She opens it again, and what comes out is, I have union representation. I have 18 years of service. I have commendations and performance records, and I have the right to a review process before any. Marcus says Section 12, Paragraph C of your collective bargaining agreement covers gross misconduct involving falsification of security threats against passengers. It is one of the provisions that allows for immediate termination without the standard review process. He says it without emphasis, without triumph, with the specific flat delivery of someone for whom this is not an escalation, but a conclusion. Diana Marsh without looking up from her tablet. Section 12, paragraph C. Confirmed. Carolyn stares. The union she starts. The review. 18 years. You had 18 years, Marcus says. And within those 18 years, you built something real. He says it without condescension. I am not dismissing what you built here. You genuinely excelled at parts of this job for a long time. What I am telling you is that those 18 years do not absorb tonight. They do not make tonight smaller. You lied to federal law enforcement about a passenger's behavior. You called my presence in a seat I own inappropriate. And you did it in front of 9 witnesses, 2 cameras, and a voice recording. He checks his watch. The simple digital display of someone who does not need a timepiece to tell anyone anything about him. 15 seconds. Carolyn looks for someone to stand beside her. There is no one. Drew is in the galley entrance looking at his feet. The cabin is still and watching. Carolyn Marcus says. His voice is not unkind. It is simply final. Collect your personal items from the galley. You will receive your final paycheck and any accrued benefits to which you are entitled. The formal termination paperwork will be processed tonight. He pauses. And leave the badge. The silence after those 3 words is complete. The badge. Not her scarf, not her nameplate. The badge, the silver rectangle on her left lapel with the Sovereign Airways logo embossed in blue and silver, the thing she has clipped to the same place on the same style of uniform jacket every working day for 18 years. The thing she reaches for first in the morning when she gets dressed, the thing that tells her every day who she is. Her hand moves to it involuntarily. The deep reflex of reaching for something that has been there long enough to feel like part of the body. She looks at Marcus. He looks back. She unclips it. It takes 2 attempts because her hands are shaking. The first attempt, her fingers close, and then the clasp does not release, and she has to try again. And the second attempt, with the full awareness of 9 people watching and 1 camera running, and the finality of it settling over her like weather, the badge comes free. She sets it on the tray table of Suite 3. The nearest flat surface. It makes a small sound, lighter than it should be for something that weighed so much for so long. It sits on the tray table and looks exactly like what it is: a piece of corporate hardware, a badge number, and a logo, the physical token of an authority that has ended. From Suite 2B, Margaret Flores does not look at the badge. She looks at her book, which she has not opened in 40 minutes. She does not open it now either. She simply looks at it with the expression of someone who has witnessed something complete, something that has arrived at its proper end. Nathan Pierce lowers his phone. His viewer count is 24,000. He will not check it again tonight. There is nothing more to document. What happened has happened, and it has been seen. Carolyn picks up her coat from the galley where she hung it before boarding. She picks up her bag, the personal one, the bag that contains the things that belong to her and not to Sovereign Airways. She does not look at Drew. She does not look at Sophia. She does not look at Senator Owens or Margaret or Nathan. She walks toward aircraft door 1 with the unsteady stride of someone moving through a space that has become unfamiliar. When she reaches the door, Marcus speaks once more. He does not raise his voice. He says, "I hope you will use the time ahead to think carefully about the difference between standards and assumptions. They are not the same thing. They never were." She walks through the door. The jet bridge swallows her. The door closes. The cabin for a moment breathes. She walked off that aircraft without her badge, without her title, without the authority that defined her for 18 years. And the man she tried to have removed in handcuffs is sitting in Suite 1A, in a hoodie, on his airline. Before we see what happens next, I want to ask you one thing. What would you have done if you were Sophia that night, 9 months into a job? A supervisor with 18 years of seniority. And you knew she was wrong. What would you have done? Tell me in the comments. I think about Sophia's decision more than almost anything in this story. If you are not subscribed yet, this is the moment. Hit that bell. Because what happens to the people in this cabin after tonight is the part of the story that matters the most. Let us finish it together. The cabin has settled into a different kind of quiet. Not the suspended, breathless quiet of before. Something more like the quiet after a storm when the air has changed and you can feel the change even before you look outside to confirm it. Marcus turns to Suite 1B. Senator Patricia Owens is looking at him. She has been looking at him finely and directly since Carolyn walked through the door. Her briefing portfolio is closed. Her hands are folded in her lap. Her expression is the most unguarded it has been since she boarded the expression of a woman who has temporarily suspended the automatic political composure and is simply sitting with what she has witnessed. He says without preamble, Senator Owens, "I think we have met before. Yes, the Infrastructure Roundtable in Washington, 2 years ago. Him, I believe your re-election campaign received a contribution from an Apex Capital PAC." A pause. It did. He says I am not raising that as a threat. I want to be clear about that. I am raising it because I want you to understand the full context of this conversation when I say what I am about to say. He pauses. What you witnessed in this cabin tonight, he says, is something that happens every day. Not always with this outcome, not usually with the cameras and the documentation and the ownership paperwork. Usually it just happens and the person it happens to gets off the plane quietly and carries it home and nobody writes it into any record. Senator Owens is very still. He says the regulatory environment around how airlines investigate and address passenger complaints, particularly complaints about how passengers are treated based on characteristics that have nothing to do with their behavior, is thin. I know you know this. I am telling you that I will be paying attention to what gets better and what does not, and who is responsible for the difference. He says it without anger. He says it with the specific quiet conviction of someone who has resources and intention, and the patience to use both. He says, I hope you had the opportunity to observe tonight carefully. She says I did. She says it quietly. She says it with something in her voice that is not quite an apology and is not quite nothing. Something in the middle that will have to be enough for now. He says, "Good." He turns back to the window. Senator Owens sits with what he has said for a long time. She does not reach for the briefing portfolio. She does not put her reading glasses back on. 3 weeks after this flight, she co-sponsors a bill requiring commercial airlines to implement independent auditing of passenger complaint records with specific attention to patterns in complaint outcomes. The bill does not reference Flight 2247. It does not need to. She does not make a public statement connecting it to that night. But when a reporter asks at a press conference 6 weeks later what prompted her renewed focus on commercial aviation accountability, she says, I observed something that made the issue real to me. She does not elaborate. She does not need to. Marcus asks Diana to send Sophia forward. Sophia comes. She walks the length of the aisle with the slightly careful step of someone who is not entirely sure what happens next. She stands in front of Suite 1A with her hands quiet at her sides, the trembling gone now, replaced by something more settled. Marcus says, What is your full name? Sophia Maria Reyes, he says. How long have you been with Sovereign? 9 months, sir, he says. And why did you come out of that galley tonight, when you knew what it could cost you? She considers the question with the seriousness it deserves. She does not reach for a clean answer quickly. She thinks about it. Then she says, Because I knew what I had scanned at the boarding door, and I knew what the manifest said. And I knew what she told Port Authority. And those 3 things did not match each other, and I thought about what it means if I just stayed in the galley while they did not match, what it means for him, what it means for the next passenger, what it means for me, and what I am willing to call my job. She pauses. She says I did not want to be someone who stays in the galley. Marcus looks at her for a moment. In that moment, there is something in his expression that he does not usually allow to be visible, something that comes from very far back from a Hampton Inn, and a yellow legal pad, and a mother eating cold rice at midnight from every version of the room that tried to close on him, and every person along the way who chose at personal cost to say something true. He says, "Sophia, effective tonight, you are the acting head purser for this flight." She blinks. "Sir?" He says, "Starting Monday, you will begin the formal review process for a permanent senior purser position. Captain Marsh will coordinate the certification pathway. Everything you need to qualify, you will receive. Sophia says I do not have the hours for. You have the only qualification that matters," he says. "You told the truth when it cost you something to do it. Everything else is training. Training I will make sure you receive." A moment. He says, "One more thing. Drew Talbot." She meets his eyes. He says he will be reviewed. He knew what the manifest showed, and he was silent while it mattered. He spoke when it was almost too late. "That is not nothing, but it is also not what you did, and the difference between the two things is something I want the organization to understand clearly." He pauses. He says what Drew did and what you did are both in the record, and the record will be used to build the culture this airline needs to be. People will see both examples, and they will learn from both. The lesson is be Sophia, not Drew. Sophia does not smile. She nods once with the gravity of someone who understands that they have been handed something weighty and intends to carry it properly. She says, "Thank you, Mr. Webb." He says, "Thank you, Ms. Reyes." She returns to the galley. She is walking differently. Not with pride exactly, with the specific settled quality of someone who has been tested in the way that matters and did not find themselves wanting. Diana Marsh makes notes on her tablet. She looks up once and meets Marcus's eyes. She says nothing. He says nothing. The understanding between them is complete and does not require words. From Suite 2B. Margaret Flores watches Sophia walk back to the galley. She opens her paperback. She finds her page. She reads. The replacement purser boards at 12:24 a.m. Her name is Andrea Voss. She is 41 years old, and she has been briefed in the 5 minutes she had available on the broad strokes of what has occurred on this aircraft tonight. She carries that briefing with her into the cabin, and it shows in the specific care with which she greets each passenger, the extra degree of attention, the awareness that this cabin has experienced something tonight that requires a different quality of presence than a normal flight. She introduces herself to Marcus. She says his name correctly without hesitation and offers nothing beyond professional courtesy, which is precisely what he wants. He thanks her. Sophia runs the forward galley with the focused calm of someone who has just discovered something about themselves and is still in the process of understanding what it means, what its implications are, what it will ask of her going forward. She does not perform the discovery. She simply works with the same care she has always brought to the small bottles and the service order and the details that no one notices unless they are missing. Officer Gutierrez pauses at the boarding door before departing. He looks back at Marcus in Suite 1A. He gives a small nod, the gesture of a person who does not have the right words and knows it and is not going to reach for wrong ones. Just the nod, "I saw you. I was part of something I should not have been part of. I am sorry in the way that a person is sorry when they understand the full weight of what that word means." Marcus returns the nod. That is all. It is enough. The boarding door closes for the final time. The aircraft pushes back from Gate 14 at 12:41 a.m., 54 minutes behind schedule. The rain is still falling. The runway lights still streak through the wet windows, red and white, blurring and sharpening with each pass of the wipers. The cabin dims for departure. Marcus, in Suite 1A, closes his eyes. His phone is in his pocket. The voice memo application is closed. The duffel is in the overhead compartment. His hands rest on the wide leather armrests, open-palmed. He does not think about the acquisition, about London, about the paperwork, about what comes tomorrow in the form of statements and legal filings and the specific operational work of what he has built. All of that exists and will be waiting for him when he lands. Right now, In the amber quiet of a cabin full of people going home, he falls asleep. Not because everything is resolved, because he has done what he came here to do. He has seen this airline the way its passengers see it, and now he knows exactly what needs to change. The aircraft lifts off the runway and climbs into the dark, and the rain closes over the gap it leaves behind like water. 3 months later, the cabin footage from Sovereign Airways Flight 2247 has been viewed 41 million times across platforms. Not because Marcus released it, he did not, but because Nathan Pierce posted 23 minutes of it the night it was recorded, and the internet did what the internet does with things that are true and recognizable and painful in the specific way that truth can be when it arrives without warning in a place where someone expected to sleep. The conversation it produced was not clean. Online conversations never are. There were people who said Carolyn was simply doing her job. There were people who said she should face criminal charges. There were people who said everything at once in the loud, undiscriminating way of a conversation that has outgrown the thing that started it. Marcus did not participate in any of it. He released a single written statement through Sovereign's communications office, 94 words, which said, "What happened on Flight 2247 was an example of the kind of treatment that passengers experience regularly, usually without cameras, without documentation, and without the specific circumstances that made accountability possible in this case. We are using this incident as the beginning of something, not the end of it. The goal is not headlines. The goal is that the next passenger and the one after that and the one after that are treated like human beings regardless of what they are wearing." He meant it. Under his direct instruction, Sovereign conducts a full review of 5 years of passenger complaint records across all 41 routes. The review finds 14 cases with patterns consistent with what happened that night. 4 employees at 3 different locations are terminated following the review. A new training program is built from real scenarios, from actual events, from the experiences of actual passengers who agree to share them, and it becomes mandatory for every crew member in the Sovereign network. It is not called a sensitivity training. It is not given a branded name. It is called internally simply what this job requires. Sophia Reyes completes her senior purser certification in 11 weeks. Her first formal performance review describes her in 3 words, makes others braver. Nathan Pierce never monetizes the footage. He gives it freely to 4 journalism programs and 2 civil rights organizations that use it as a case study in documentation and witness accountability. Margaret Flores's letter, 4 handwritten pages mailed to Marcus's office at Apex Capital, is framed and hangs in the Sovereign Airways Training Center in Newark, not for public display. For the trainers who work there, so they remember that ordinary people with paperbacks and phone cameras and 32 years of teaching 7th grade are paying attention and will say so when it matters. Drew Talbot resigns from Sovereign 2 weeks after the flight. He sends a brief formal email to HR and a separate longer private message to Sophia. She reads it twice. She does not reply. She does not delete it. She puts it in a folder she has not named yet. 6 months after Flight 2247, Marcus boards a Sovereign flight at O'Hare. Economy class. Middle seat. Same charcoal gray hoodie. Same faded jeans. Same Air Force ones with the small scuff on the left toe that he still has not addressed. Same battered leather duffel in the overhead compartment. Nobody in his row knows his name. The flight attendant serving his section is a young man barely a year into the job with the specific attentiveness of someone who takes the work seriously because they have not yet been told they should not. He hands Marcus a cup of water with real eye contact, with the particular quality of care that communicates I see you as a person. Not a seat number, not a profile, not a category of passenger, a person. Marcus says thank you. He means it more than the young man will ever know. He leans back in the middle seat. The woman in the window seat is asleep. The man in the aisle seat is watching something on his phone with earbuds in. The overhead bins are full. The legroom is not generous. The ambient noise of the aircraft is the ambient noise of 200 people breathing and existing and going somewhere. Nobody is looking at him. Nobody is coming down the aisle to ask him questions. Nobody is deciding what he deserves based on what he is wearing. He is just a man on a plane. And that specific, ordinary, taken-for-granted invisibility, the freedom to simply exist in a seat on a flight without being questioned about whether he belongs there is the thing. Not the acquisition, not the FAA filing, not the boardrooms or the London hotel at 5 a.m. with 9 lawyers and cold coffee. This, the ability to close his eyes on a Tuesday night and not have to brace for the tap on the shoulder. He looks out the window. They are climbing. The city below is becoming a grid of lights, dense at the center, and then spreading outward and thinning at the edges into darkness. Each light a home. Each home full of people going somewhere, or coming from somewhere, or simply holding still inside the life they have built, carrying things that are invisible from this altitude but real completely and entirely real in the lives that contain them. He thinks about his mother eating cold rice at midnight without complaining once. He thinks about a yellow legal pad in a Hampton Inn in Memphis. He thinks about the click of handcuffs opening. He thinks about Sophia walking into the aisle with her hands shaking and her voice holding. He closes his eyes. The plane carries him home through the dark, through the grid of lights, through everything that is still broken, and everything that is slowly, incrementally, at real cost to real people becoming better. He is asleep before they level off. If this story moved something in you, if you recognized yourself in Marcus, or in Sophia, or in Margaret sitting in Suite 2B with her paperback and her quiet refusal to look away, then this story did exactly what it was meant to do. Like this video, if you believe that a person's right to dignity does not depend on what they are wearing or what title is on their business card. Hit that like button right now if this story made you feel something real. Subscribe to this channel because we tell stories about quiet strength, about people who stand up when standing up costs something, and about the kind of justice that does not announce itself but simply steadily arrives. If you are not subscribed yet, click that button and hit the bell so you never miss a story like this one. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded that one person choosing to tell the truth in a room full of people who are not can change everything. Share it with someone who needs to hear that they are not alone. We will see you in the next story.